It is now 6:06 p.m. We have quorum. However, we are waiting on a council member. We're giving them 10 minutes. Thank you.
This meeting of the City of Socorro City Council is set to begin. First and foremost, we would like to thank everyone and ask for your patience during this difficult time we have been presented with. Everyone, please remember to silence any electronics to avoid sound interruption. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. In accordance with Section 418.016 of the Texas Government Code and by order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City of Socorro City Council will broadcast the meeting scheduled today, January 7, 2021, at 6 p.m. from council chambers located at 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, via telephone conference and live stream in order to advance the public health goal and practice social distancing to slow the spread of coronavirus, also known as COVID 19. The public that signed up and any presenters will be called upon by the presiding officer during the meeting to speak during the public comment or their agenda item following Government Code 551.042. La reunión del concilio de la ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Primeramente, queremos darle las gracias y pedimos su paciencia durante estos momentos críticos que enfrentamos. Favor de poner en silencio todo equipo electrónico para evitar interrupción de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. A quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada está desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. De acuerdo con sección 418.016 del Código del Gobierno de Texas y por orden de la Oficina del Gobernador, anunciada el 16 de marzo del 2020, el Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro transmitirá su reunión hoy, jueves 7 de enero de 2021, a las 6 de la tarde desde la sala del concilio, localizada en 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, por medio de teléfono y será transmitido en vivo para avanzar en el objetivo de salud pública y practicar el distanciamiento social, para tomar medidas preventivas para prevenir la propagación del coronavirus, conocida como COVID-19, a los demás y por la seguridad del público. El público y los presentadores serán anunciados por el oficial conduciendo la reunión. Para poder, para poder hablar durante la sección de comentario público o después de la discusión del artículo de la agenda por cual se apuntaron, siguiendo las reglas del gobierno 551.042.
It is now 6:17. This meeting is called to order. Ms. Rodarte, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, public comments. Ms.
Mayor.
Navarro, do we have
Oh,
any?
You skipped number 3.
Number 3, I'm sorry. Establishment of quorum.
Ruben Reyes.
Here.
Cesar Nevares.
Here.
Ralph Duran.
Here.
Mayor Ivy Avalos.
Here.
Victor Perez is absent. And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Item number 4, public comments.
Mayor, we have several speakers for this item. Our first speaker is Margarita Perez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to welcome the new council members and the mayor to the city of Socorro. My name is Margarita Perez. I'm with Christmas Trails for Toys, and also I'm a community member, very active in helping the community as far as charity events. I would like to welcome you and hope that we can go ahead and work together as we have had work for the betterment of the community. Hopefully, we can join and help the community become a better Socorro. We need to move forward and have everybody work together. Thank you so much. And you'll be hearing from me soon as far as when we start doing charitable events. Thank you.
Alejandro Garcia.
Good evening, council and public. I have a couple words here I want to say for everybody to. Self-interest is a bad trait for any public servant. Us in the city of Socorro have dealt with the aftermath of many backdoor deals and self-gain opportunities. In Socorro, it isn't about party, but each other and what's best for the city. We have council members that want to delay voters' will because their sure vote didn't win. Our council members that will tell you one thing and do another. Selflessness will keep moving the city of Socorro forward. It's not about you, but about Socorro. I hope everybody takes selflessness in every vote that you take. Also, I would like to support Ms. Rodarte. That is our city manager that has taken pay cuts to make sure that we get everything we need for the city. Also, Mr. Ralph Duran needs to stop suing the city time after time. And we want to invite everybody to listen to the Valle Bajo podcast. And we're going to break down this meeting and all the votes tomorrow. Thank you.
Pablo Barrera.
Yes, good evening, council members and mayor. I did send out an email back December 27th, and I guess it does bring some concern, especially that we have a new mayor at large and Mr. Ralph Duran, District 2 rep. There were some safety issues happening here in my neighborhood, and that email I addressed the three of you individuals and Mr. Rodarte, and she was the only one to have responded. And we have been working together to get this issue resolved. And it's just kind of sad and alarming that nobody has responded to that email at all. And when you guys were out there campaigning, you guys promised, you know, we're going to be more involved in the community. We're going to be there to support you guys and stuff like that. At least that's the pitch that I kept hearing. But such a simple task that you guys were given, and I didn't get a response. And this is something that could actually put other people's lives in danger. And, you know, I like to thank Ms. Rodarte for being proactive and helping the community here for our safety. And at the end of the day, it really does come, it is that serious. It does come down to people's lives and kids being, you know, them being scared, their life threatened just because of the activities that have been going on. That's all I have to say. And I hope to still hear a response from you guys, even though it's been over 10 days since that email went out. I know it was on a Sunday, December 27th. It was about 4 in the morning when that event happened, and I sent it out really quick.
Mayor,
Thank
may
you.
I respond to Mr. Barrera?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Barrera, my email was hacked and I haven't been able to access any of my email, but I will get with you tomorrow. I promise.
Angel-
Okay, I look forward to that.
District
Thank
4?
you.
Angélica Ramírez.
Sí, muy buenas tardes, Mayor y Concilio. Soy la señora Ramírez Barrera. Antes que todo, creímos, ¿verdad?, que íbamos a empezar con el pie derecho. Parece que empezamos con el pie izquierdo. Aquí teníamos una situación en la subdivisión donde vivimos en Las Lunas, que, como dice mi esposo, se mandó el email. Hasta ahorita nadie nos ha contestado. Acabo de ir a respuesta del señor Durán. No sé los otros dos, el señor Reyes y la mayor, que es ya su contestación, el por qué no han podido responder a ese email que se mandó. No quiero, yo llevo más de 30 años aquí en Socorro viviendo. No me gustaría ver que regresáramos y diéramos pasos hacia atrás. Creo que tenemos que seguir dando pasos hacia enfrente y ojalá, y no sé si sepan ustedes que esa es parte de su trabajo, su responsabilidad es contestar. Ahí especialmente cuando es algo que se puede aquí jugar hasta con las vidas de uno. Espero y podamos trabajar todos en conjunto y a ver qué pasa, como dice el dicho, ¿verdad? Caras vemos, corazones no sabemos. Muchas gracias.
Sal Chagoya.
Ms. Ramírez Barrera, no sé si entiende inglés, quiere que hable en español.
I thought I was called to speak.
You could, yes, Mayor, you could go ahead and speak in English if that's better for you. I could speak either one, English or Spanish.
Okay, ma'am. We were not set up with email at this point. So if you'd give me a chance, I'd really like to speak to you and your husband. I believe this is both of you, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, if you give me a chance, I can definitely speak to both of you this coming week. Maybe Monday or Tuesday. Give me a call.
Okay, that sounds good to us. There's our email. I don't. You say that again. You didn't have access to the email. We look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully you'll reach out to us since we already reached out to you.
Okay, definitely, ma'am.
Sal
Okay.
Chagoya.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name's Sal Chagoya, and wanted to just kind of make some comments. I just want to make sure and reiterate that there is an understanding on how to conduct the meetings and follow the rules. My understanding is that when there's public speaking, there's no dialogue going back and forth like what we just heard at this moment. This is public speaking. This is the time where we could, post our messages and deliver what we want to say to council, but there shouldn't be no dialogue going back and forth. Second of all, it was pretty embarrassing the last meeting that we had for 2020. Our city attorney a couple of times, Mr. Perez, asked if we were posted to discuss about the election, and it would seem like it was going back and forth because of Mr. Duran not following the rules. So if something is not in the agenda, we got to make sure that that discussion cannot be held. It went on for a long period of time, and Mr. Jim Martinez, I think twice or three times, mentioned to council that we were not posted to speak about it, but Mr. Duran kept on, personal agenda, I guess, and he wanted to keep on speaking. So I know you guys are new, but you guys need to get familiarized with the rules, and the rules need to be followed as well. And the last thing that I would like to say is to Mr. Duran, please stop suing the city of Socorro. That's it, because you're taking money away from projects that Socorro really needs. And this is your third or fourth lawsuit, and this is ridiculous. It's embarrassing that you're my district rep and you continue to have these motives. I just can't wait till the day you're no longer in council. Thank you.
Mayor, for the record, Mr. Victor Perez joined the meeting at 6:28.
Thank you.
Gina Cordero.
Good evening, Legal Counsel, Ms. Rodarte. First, also, I want to welcome Mayor Avalos and new council member, Mr. Ruben Reyes. Hoping you all are available when needed in the city with the constituents that voted for you to represent in each district. Basically, I'm here to talk in item number 15. Ms. Rodarte has been a great city manager. I really do hope that you come in with the attitudes on continuing to move the city forward. Ms. Rodarte has done an excellent job this past years, and she is familiar with the constituents' needs of the city of Socorro. There are projects that the city has started, and working together with the whole staff in the city of Socorro is looking better every day. I have worked with her with some projects with Lower Valley Water District in the cleanup in the city and tire amnesty programs as well, which we hope to continue to have them and working together. We need the city to continue to move forward. You all are elected officials and can help us shine. Thank you for your time, and I hope you keep Ms. Rodate to continue doing the good work that she's done and be proactive and have the city move forward. Thank you, and Happy New Year to all of you.
And our last speaker is Miriam Cruz.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Navarro. So I wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. Maybe, no smiles, all right. I wanted to welcome the new council members, and I also wanted to thank staff and everyone that's been continuing to do, their hard work. I especially want to thank Alejandra for everything that she always brings on the agenda. I mean, the partnerships, the grants, everything is just, it's great, and she's really helping Socorro move in a positive direction. I wanted to mention two different ideas. One that I've already mentioned before in the past, which is the calendar for the city website. I know I've mentioned it before, and one of the things that I wanted to add was that I think it would be helpful if it's interactive. So if I go to today's date, if there's any events or meetings, I should be able to click on that, and it should take me to the agenda. It should take me to more information about the event. Again, you see that on any other type of government website. I'm not really sure why we're not doing one. The second thing I wanted to mention is that I was hoping that we could get for the community to be able to be more interactive. If there's a way, well, there is a way. If there's a way that the council members can decide so that the public is able to present themselves by video if they wish. A lot of most of communication is nonverbal, and so I would hope that city council members care enough to be able to look at their constituents and the constituents look at council members. And the way that I would think about it is if there was a second Zoom meeting and then the staff could share their screen. And then just to respond to Mr. Shoya, it's nice to know that you're still coming to the meetings from time to time. But actually the meeting itself, the notice itself on public comment states that that City Council can give a statement for specific or factual information given in response to an inquiry that we have. And so no one did anything wrong right now. They responded to exactly what the constituents were speaking about. You can read that on the agenda. It states it directly under public comment. Just, I mean, sometimes you, and I only wanted to respond because sometimes you council members respond to some things and sometimes they don't, and some things are just kind of left unsaid. And, I think it's helpful for the public to understand that. That's why you guys can choose, or that's why there's sometimes that you do respond to specific inquiries and other times you don't respond. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor, and that was our last speaker.
Thank you. Moving on to presentations. Council, who would like to entertain the motion to move the addendum item into the presentation section?
Motion to move addendum into presentation section.
I'll second it.
Okay, item,
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez. Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Perez, can you hear us?
Mr. Perez, you are muted.
Yes, but I haven't been called yet.
Yes, Mr. Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Ms. Mayor, we can barely hear you. Can you get closer to the mic? And yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator for the City of Socorro. First of all, I want to thank you for giving us the time to present on the City of Socorro Community Initiatives first annual report. Again, we have presented this in the past, but we're very happy to have the opportunity to present this to our new council. Joining us will be our chairperson of the board, Ms. Claudia Garcia, who has been a resident of Socorro and is also a Socorro business owner. So we'll be taking turns to presenting today, and I'll go ahead and share the presentation if that's okay with you. Can you all see the presentation?
No, ma'am.
There we go. Can you see the presentation now? Oop,
No, Alejandra.
Not yet.
one more time.
There you go.
Can you all see it now? Okay, perfect. Here we go. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to our chairperson, Ms. Claudia Garcia.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Claudia Garcia. I'm the chairperson for this new organization. So the Socorro, the Community Socorro Initiative is a brand new organization. We have about a year, and it was started as a way for the city to obtain more funding. Um, Most of the time, cities, municipalities don't qualify for a wide range of grants. So by creating this 501c3 nonprofit, then we can qualify for additional types of fundings that normally only 501c3s qualify for. So that's the purpose of this organization, to give the city an opportunity to get funding for quality of life projects, you know, if there's no other word for it. But um, I'll let Alejandra tell you what we've done so far.
Thank you. So during year one, the work that the nonprofit achieved was the drafting and adoption of our formation documents. We also completed the very important work of adopting a mission, vision, and values. And we did start working on our 4-year data-driven strategic plan. Our goals during year two include the finalization, adoption, and implementation of that strategic plan with programs and projects that benefit the Socorro community, with the goal of gathering evidence of success of the work that the nonprofit does by the end of year two. With that, I did want to provide a brief timeline of some of the work that this nonprofit organization had to do in order to establish itself as a trustworthy organization serving the Socorro community. In February 2019, City Council did approve the formation of the organization. We did file our incorporation documents with the Secretary of State in June 2019. In July 2019, we recruited and we recruited our board of directors, and we did draft our bylaws and some of our other formation documents. In August 2019, we held our first board meeting. And then in March 2020, we finally received our IRS determination letter, which states that we are a nonprofit organization in the eyes of the federal government. We did slow down a bit once COVID hit. We had to shift our operations and our meetings virtually, just like everybody else had to. But since our organization was formed and we held our first board meeting, we have been working towards a strategic plan, and we'll talk a little bit more about the work that we had to put into that.
So we've done some, I would say, some wonderful things. One of the things that we've done, and maybe some of you might have seen it, is a questionnaire for the community. We also invited businesses. We weren't as successful, but the community questionnaire was done through social media, and we got a better response than we had hoped for. So that was good. Asking people what types of activities or quality of life they would like to see. We decided to focus on three areas: history, the arts, and health and wellness. And based on those, the community gave us feedbacks of what what kinds of things would they like to see, and that way it gives us a little bit more focus. Well, where do we have to start looking for proposals, or working towards. Alejandra also has talked to some other stakeholders, so not just the community stakeholders, but also some business and nonprofit and foundation stakeholders. So I don't know if Alejandra, you want to mention how that went?
Yes, as Ms. Garcia stated, we also met with external organizations. We met with our county commissioner. We also met with the Paso Norte Health Foundation to get their feedback on our work as establishing the nonprofit and our strategic plan. And lastly, we did meet with city administrators to try to identify projects that the city is already investing in that maybe the nonprofit can support and kind of boost a little bit more. This is one of the quotes from one of the residents that filled out the survey. It says, "Our strongest asset is our historical mission and the history of Socorro. The best thing about living here is the people and its culture." And we had a lot of those types of responses in the survey. So everything that Ms. Garcia stated, we took all of that input, all of that feedback, and with that, we came up with our three main focus areas.
So history is our first focus area because we know that Socorro has a rich history. We have a lot of elders that we can tap into. They have so many stories to share how the community has shifted for over 100 years. We also have the missions that have been around. So we have a rich history that we can share, not just within our own community members, but even outside. We also, our second area is arts and culture. It kind of goes connected with history. So we have youth, we have all the way to elders. So by coming up with activities and projects and or programs, whatever it takes us, we can get people of all ages involved, from beginning to experts, perhaps through artisan markets, or other types of markets like um, farmers markets, which then ties into health and wellness. So we know that when a community is not as healthy, then a lot of things suffer. So we know that some of the programs we have to start here in Socorro have to involve health, wellness through, like I said, farmers markets, um, paths, other types of events that maybe the community can come out to. So by focusing on some of these barriers and enabling the community to make some changes, then our city can thrive.
Perfect. So with that in mind, we went ahead, although our strategic plan is not finalized, we did adopt, the board adopted 4 key projects to start with. These 4 key projects are a very good example of the type of overlap that we want to see between our focus areas so that our efforts are amplified. As an example, the Paso Norte Health Foundation, the Paso Norte Trail, which is a county-wide trail connecting Socorro to the surrounding communities, would not only provide an opportunity for health and wellness activities, but also connect our historic sites along the Mission Trail, as well as our Rio Vista Community Center. The second key project is the Passmore Shared Use Path. Again, that's a shared use path for pedestrians and bicyclists along Passmore Road that not only connects neighborhoods to schools and the Mission Trail, but it'll also provide an opportunity for people to get out and bike in the afternoons and make some more active living choices. The third project would be the Rio Vista Farm Rehabilitation Project. As you know, Rio Vista has a rich bracero program history, and its rehabilitation will allow us to use that site as an art gallery, all kinds of a library or resource hub for the community. And the last one is the Socorro Youth and Culture Program, which I'm not sure if you've already seen. They do an amazing work already. They have completed a couple of murals, and it's a collaborative art program for Socorro youth focused on empowering young artists to connect with their community and their history and their culture. So we're hoping that some of those kids that come out of the program start learning about our local history and then beautify our neighborhoods and our community as well. And I'll let Ms. Garcia talk about our next steps.
So we're still finalizing our strategic plan because in talking with Alejandra, many foundations, many proposals, we won't qualify. We don't have a strategic plan. So we need to finalize that so that we can move forward. We also have our board plan. So with our rules and so that's almost complete also since we're a brand new organization. We have created a website and it's live. So it's still beginning. There's not a lot to see. Pretty much what you just saw right now is on our website, but you can start looking us up. There's also a page or a tab for donations to our nonprofit because we are nonprofit. We depend on donations. So you're welcome to donate through the website. So those are our next steps, things that we're working on. And I think the last thing was a small little budget that we have. So we'd like to share that with you, Alejandra.
Yes, because the nonprofit is very new, we have not received any grant funding or any big donors. The funds that have been used as a seed funds from the city of Socorro to establish our website and to establish our banking account and pay for some banking fees. And last, like Ms. Garcia stated, our website is live. It's socorroinitiative.org. And if you have any questions for us, we would be more than happy to answer that. If we cannot answer that today, we can come back at another council meeting and provide that answer also.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you. Good job on the presentation, ladies. I see that you had, it's a three-pronged or three-faceted approach where you have, if you can go back, if you can go back up to the goals, please, where you have history, arts, culture. I know you just passed it. Well, there, that's fine. History, arts and culture, health and wellness. Is there or will there be a community development or like a business development aspect to this? Because in order for us to be able to grow the city and highlight its history, we also, to your point, need to grow the mom and pop businesses. And so will there be or has thought been given to developing an economic development aspect to this?
We have, and we actually were advised by our legal representation not to include specifically economic development as an activity of the organization, because that will prompt additional IRS requirements. However, in our internal conversations with Ms. Garcia and with the rest of the board, we have the intended goal, not so much a stated goal, but the secondary goal of creating events and opportunities where people can sell their art, they can sell their artisan products, such as a farmer's market, such as culture events where we have, performers and artists, and create that attraction for business in that way.
One of the ideas was, as part of the trails, have on our maps, have stops at restaurants or some local favorites where people can stop to rest, grab something to eat, something to drink, and then keep going on the trail, you know. So that's an idea that we've been throwing and discussing.
Because I would, and that's very good. That I'm glad you pointed out as far as the legal ramifications of maybe having that business development aspect to it. So maybe in the future, and again, just as I could envision a community development corporation working very well with this portion of the initiative, so that it's a complete loop of quality of life and business development, mom and pop, so that all this becomes even stronger. So just a food for thought.
Thank you.
Ms. Rodarte?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Regarding the EDC for the economic development, that is part of our internal processes, not through the nonprofit organization. We are going to training, and it is also part of our capital improvement program that we are planning to implement this year. Thank you.
Moving on, presentation from Tannenbaum Engineering, Richard Zamora and Jose Reyes regarding city projects.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We placed this item just so we can give you an update on the projects that we are working on, and also to include the new members of council, provide them information of what projects we've been working and what momentum we have going in with the city.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, council. We're gonna let me get my presentation on the screen.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Richard Zamora. From the screen, you can see we're both sitting in front of the camera. I'm the smaller guy to the right, who says the bigger guy on the left. And I'm a principal with Tannenbaum Engineering. Tannenbaum is a full-service engineering firm with about 250 employees across, with 7 offices across the state. Now, we've been doing work with the city of Socorro in Ms. Rodarte since about 2015 or so. This is back when I think Mike Medina was still with the MPO during this time. And I mention this because a lot of these projects that we're going to talk about, it's not something that developed overnight. We've been working on these projects for years, and it's taken the vision of your administration to get these projects moving forward. Now, we have an office here in El Paso, and we've been here since right around 2009, 2010, more or less. And Mr. Jose Reyes here to my left, he's our office manager and project engineer on these projects. So I'll let him talk a little bit about the projects themselves, and then we'll address any questions as they come up.
Thank you, Rich, for that. You mentioned that these projects do take some time to develop, and we're going to kind of take you back to, I guess, where we started working with Socorro and how we started helping administration develop a program. This is really a program that's been in the works for 5, 6 years now. This is kind of overview what we're looking at. We're talking about general engineering, we're talking about the major thoroughfare plan, the master sidewalk plan, and an update just on all the ongoing projects. And this is hopefully this will allow the new members of council to understand a lot of the exciting things that are happening in the city of Socorro right now. Uh, Back in 2015, we started meeting with city manager, and we actually met with the MPO, and we're looking for ways to get some of the projects that Socorro needed, find funding for roadways and the intersections and improvements that are sorely needed. So the city manager made a decision to invest in developing a major thoroughfare plan for the city of Socorro in August 2016. The thoroughfare plan included a lot of information in there. It included traffic capacity analysis. That we generated, really looked at the whole city and see what the road capacities were, where we needed improvements. And then they also included the safe route to school plan, updated. They already had one, so we had to update the current plan that they had at the time. And we developed a master sidewalk plan. We did a roundabout study and a transit plan. The thoroughfare plan was completed in November 2018. With the completion of the thoroughfare plan, the city then began looking for funding for projects that were identified in the plan.
If I may add to that, this thoroughfare plan, it was a great foresight by Ms. Rodarte and the administration, because this is what we've been able to use to be able to acquire a lot of the funding that we have in place now. So it was a very good investment, a very good tool to use.
This is kind of an overview of the plan. What you can see there, you can see that the roads that were identified in the plan. In the plan, actually, it identified 7 high priority projects, 5 mid priority projects, and 10 intersection projects. And these projects, obviously, you cannot build them all at once, but it provides you a plan moving forward to start working on and improving different sections of the city, and also for finding funding to develop and to improve the roadways that are in Socorro. This is kind of an overview of the master sidewalk plan. In this sidewalk plan, we divide the city into 12 sections. We identified the need for sidewalks in each of these sections. And matter of fact, I believe in the agenda today, we have phase 1 of this sidewalk plan. It's going to be, I guess, to present the council for approval, start construction on several streets to place sidewalks. This is the Sparks Royal project. This was what, I don't know, you all recall back and years ago, you were constantly get floods around the area of Onion Field and on Sparks. I'm sorry, Thunder Road. It was a constant flooding every time we had rainfall. I remember the maintenance staff constantly had to build berms on Thunder Road to keep the water from flooding the residents in the area. Well, this was a study that we did to find out, okay, what needs to be done to avoid the flooding, the city from flooding in this area. And we did the study, and it was completed in November 2017. Since then, the city has built phase 1 of the Onion Field Basin. It was completed in May 2020, and we've now almost finished completion of the design of the remainder of the system to complete the Sparksville Road drainage system. It's going to include completing the Onion Field Basin, the channel that goes I-10, and the Stockdale Basin. With this system, hopefully this will protect the city from the 100-year flood moving forward forever. Right now, and the most exciting part is the city is coordinating a partnership with the County of El Paso to share the cost of the construction of this portion of the project, because it's also going to benefit the county. They have another basin they were looking at north of I-10 that they're not going to have to build, because the water will be captured in this system. The next project is the Rio Vista Bridge Replacement Project. This TxDOT has provided funding to replace the project at Rio Vista as it crosses the Franklin Canal. This is the location map right there at Alameda and the Franklin Canal. And if you all are familiar with it, I'm sure you are, that bridge really is in dire need of replacement. It does have also a pedestrian bridge that the project will replace as well. This is a closer view aerial of the project where we're going to replace the bridge, be removed, and the pedestrian bridge will be removed. And we're going to replace what we call a bridge class culvert. We're not going to build a bridge the irrigation district doesn't want to put a bridge. It wants us to build a bridge class culvert there. So this is what the preliminary layout will look like. You can tell we have more lanes than the previous. We only had 2 lanes initially, and then the new road will have 4 lanes. So it'll allow for better traffic movement and allow for the future expansion of Rio Vista Road. This project, the funding, this project approved in August 2018. The state funding for the project is $992,000, just under $1 million. The local contribution for this project is approximately $66,818. So it's quite a bit less than what it would cost to replace that bridge on the city's dime. And we started looking at design on this project in September last year. This is kind of general schedule of the project. We started the preliminary design on it. Environmental is getting ready to start working on it, and we hope to start construction in May of next year. The next project is very similar to the Rio Vista project. It's a Bovey bridge replacement project also. This is the same concept as Rio Vista. It's replacing the bridge crossing the Friendly Canal at Bovey. And this is the bridge that the pictures of the bridge that there at Bovey, and also look, it does need replacement. It's a very old bridge, and it's not safe for pedestrians and for vehicles. This is the aerial of the existing bridge at Friendly Canal at Alameda, and this is a preliminary layout of the roadway and the new bridge class culvert under crossing underneath Bovey. Again, we're trying to add capacity to the bridge, to the crossing, so it'll serve not only today's traffic but future traffic. This one also was approved. Funding is approved in July of 2020. The state funding for this project is $965,000, just under $1 million also, and the local contribution for that one is $55,000, so it's $179. And the preliminary design on this project started in August of last year. This project as well was started. Preliminary design, environmental is getting ready to start, and we hope to have construction started on this one also in May of 22. The Passmore Shade Tooth project also, this is a layout of the project starting just by, it's not gonna cross, it's by Franklin Canal. It's not gonna go to Alameda. It's gonna be just south of Alameda and all the way to just south of the upper plate lateral. This is a view of the current Passmore Road. You can see there's no facilities for pedestrians on it. And this is a picture of what it would look like when it is completed. The funding approved by the NPO in January 2020. The funding for this project is $186,537, and the local contribution is $150,357. And the payment design started in September 2020, last year. And here's the schedule on that project. It is in preliminary design. We're starting actual design on that one this year. We can restart that. Environmental is going to restart as well, and the construction will start in April of 22. This is called the Arterial 1 project. A lot of you know it by the many years. It's called the Atiwa Boulevard. Many names that the project has is, but this project, the scope of this project is to extend a new arterial road from I-10 all the way down to Socorro Road, and eventually that will connect to the future proposed Border Highway East project. We're not showing you any routes yet, because we're just starting on this project, and we're working on the route alternative analysis. We're looking to see where the best location is for this arterial, and we're also working with TxDOT to see where they allow us to connect to I-10. So in the near future, we're going to have the public meetings. We're going to start showing you some proposed routes, get public comment before we actually get selected a route for the project. This is kind of what it's going to look like. This is what's proposed. You're going to have a 4-lane arterial. It's going to have bike lanes on both sides. It's going to have also on the outside, it's going to have sidewalks for pedestrians. So it's going to be a very nice facility, and we hope to also add some landscaping as well to the project. So this is just going to give you a peek into what it might look like in the future. This project, the funding for the preliminary engineering approved by NPO in December 2018. The estimated construction, this project is $33.9 million. That's a very preliminary estimate. As we move further in the project and development, we'll refine that estimate. But we estimate right now it's going to be approximately $33 million. The preliminary, the start for this project was August 7th of 2020, which is ironic because that's my birthday. Arterial 1, I guess is the schedule. We started preliminary design on this one. Right now we're doing the route analysis. We started working on environmental here in 2022. The design is going to be completed in 2023, and we're going to have to acquire obviously some right of way, and the construction will start in 2024. So this is a little ways to go. We're just getting started on it, but it's a very exciting project. You'll be hearing a lot about it in the near future. We have several public meetings for everybody to have public input in the project as well. And the last project we're going to talk about is a level Hueco Tanks extension project. This project extends. It's going to extend the recently constructed level Hueco Tanks from North Loop all the way across the railroad and actually over the railroad and connect to Alameda. We're also the very preliminary stage in this one. We're looking for different routes for this project, and we're doing what they call a route analysis to see which would be the best route to take on this project. And again, on this one also, we're going to be having a lot of public meetings, get public input on the different routes that we're going to be presenting. So public involvement is going to be very important for us for everybody to participate on this project. So it's also a very exciting project to have, and this is what it's going to look like. It'll be very similar to Arterial 1, 4 lanes in each direction. Going to have also a bike lane, 5-foot bike lane on each side, a sidewalk on each side as well, and hopefully some landscaping along the way as well. It'll be a very nice facility when it's done. This one here, the funding for preliminary engineering is approved by MPO in July 2020. The construction budget for this one is approximately $20 million, and the preliminary engineering started in September 2020. And this is the schedule on that project. This one just started as well. The environmental is going to be starting here pretty quick once you get a selected route. We're going to the design. Once the design gets the preliminary design, which is 30%, we'll start the actual design of the project, and then the right of way for the project will be acquired, and then we'll be hopefully start construction in mid 2024. That's all the projects we have right now. It's a lot of exciting things going on with the city of Socorro. It's just like I mentioned, Richard mentioned, it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. Your staff, your administration has been great in really looking forward and investing in the future of Socorro. I think once these projects are completed, it's going to help traffic, help the citizens of Socorro get through and around Socorro, a lot easier. And there's still a lot of other ongoing projects that we're working with the staff to acquire funding as well. So it's not the end. We're still a lot more work to do, but we're happy to be part of this exciting developments. And at this time, I'll take any questions anybody has.
Well, I'd like to add, I'd like to thank Ms. Rodarte and the administration. You can see the magnitude of the work that has been brought into the area. I mean, $56.6 million to bring into the city of Socorro in construction. That's a lot of money. But again, it's taken 4 or 5 years to get to this point, and it's going to take another 3 or 4 more years to complete everything. But it's been a pleasure working with the city of Socorro, and we hope to continue to do so also. Thank you.
Mayor, we do have a speaker for this item.
Yeah, question, I believe District 4 has a question.
Ms. Villalobos?
I thank you, gentlemen. It was awesome. I loved it. Question, any of those projects can be moved up if
That is correct. And that's the idea. I mean, these are at the NPO, they do slot them by years. And the idea is to try to get these done as soon as possible and move them up in years. I think whenever the NPO project does get completed, the environmental is completed, they have a lot easier to move them up in dates. So yeah, that is the goal. And Mike, we work with Mike and the right there to see the opportunities to move this project up and then get them started sooner.
Thank you.
Ms. Navarro, do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, we do. Miriam Cruz.
Hi, I had two comments, well, maybe a few more. What was presented today during the meeting is not what was attached to the agenda, which is a little frustrating because I'm sure council was able to view what was presented in a very clear manner. But because you guys are in a Zoom meeting, which is being broadcasted into YouTube, the resolution was not very good. And so there was many things that I could not see clearly that was being presented, and other information that I couldn't read on the screen. And then of course it wasn't what was on the backup. And even what was on the backup was attached as a PowerPoint so that people could take notes on the side, which again takes away from the resolution and the ability to view so many things from the presentation. So I just ask, and I expect that the group would be submitting what they actually presented to council meetings so that it's attached to the minutes. And of course, that's frustrating in and of itself because that's not going to be posted for a while until the minutes are approved. So, I mean, it's a real headache for the public and for me as a constituent to be able to try and follow these things and not be able to actually view all of the information that council is watching and looking at. It's really frustrating. And knowing that I'm not going to be able to look at it for a
Ms.
while now.
Cruz, your time is up.
All right, well, I didn't have time for my second comment, but thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
Okay, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. Mrs. Rodarte and Ms. Mayor, I think Miriam brings a valid point. I think we need to do a little bit better to have this information out there. Ms. Rodarte, I think you want to say something. I see you. So if you can just, maybe if we're not clear, we need to be super transparent with our constituents, because when we were out there, that's one of the things that was mentioned a lot, that we're not very transparent, even though we've tried very hard to be very transparent about what we can be transparent when it has nothing to do with having to do with a situation with our attorney where we can't discuss information, and sometimes the public doesn't understand that. But I'd like to sit down with both of you and see what we can do to better our system and to better put this information out there for our constituents to understand. Because one of the things that I've started when I first started last administration was trying to be educate the public better. And here we have people asking us for better, and I guess we can do better. And Ms. Rodarte, I'll leave the floor to you.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What was presented was a draft that was provided to staff. We did know that the presentation was going to have a little bit of changes. Right after this meeting, they will send it to us. We can go ahead and post it through our social media platforms, post it on our website, and it will be posted in our minutes once it's approved. And sometimes that's just due to deadline constraints that we work with drafts and then present the final outcome to council. We did think it was very important, since it was the first meeting for council, to know exactly where the city stands when it comes to projects, just so you can be all informed and better answer questions to the community.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Council, before we begin our regular agenda, who would like to make a motion to move item number 11 to be next on the agenda? We have a time constraint there with engineers.
So moved.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos. Ms. Villalobos?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Ms. Cruz, if you can hear me, let's sit down and talk about your ideas, okay? And yes,
Okay, item number 11, discussion and action to award Socorro Sidewalk Project Phase 1 bid 20-04 to the lower bidder, JAR Concrete.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Michael Mina, I'm the city planner. What we have before you is a series of bids that were approved by the council by way of either the capital improvement program or by motions that the previous body did over the last couple of months. So with that in mind, what I would like to do is to run you through the presentation. If we could have it presented to the body and the public, please. Can we bring up the agenda back up?
We're pulling
Yes,
it up, sir.
Mr. Medina, we're pulling it up.
Okay, thank you. I guess as we wait, I'll go ahead and start some background on the previous presentations with regard to the master sidewalk plan. So there was a need for the council to be informed by way of the development and the promotion of infrastructure that is normally recognized by the federal government by having ADA, or as we say, the American Disability Act, infrastructure that is compliant around the city. And so the importance of having those type of plans is that it also affords us the opportunity to compete, for example, at the MPO or other bodies that would provide some type of assistance to advance these type of projects. So what we're showing you right here is a representation of the bids that were submitted by the vendors. We had a total of 5 bidders present proposals to the city. What we did is that we had an array of bids to include 2 options and 1 with an alternative. The first base bid is the sidewalks that were talked about earlier in the master sidewalk plan. These are sidewalks that will be ADA compliant. They reside within all sections of the city. They come from the capital improvement program. Along with that is that we have base bid 2. There was a need for the city to address a infrastructure around the Cerro Mar subdivision. This includes the development of the rock wall around the area to include sidewalks in that same perimeter, along with making improvements to the basin, or as we call the pond. And so ultimately, what we had asked for the potential bidders is to provide the bids by way of a breakdown. So we have a base bid 1, a base bid 2, an option 1, which includes a combination of base bid 1, base bid 2, and then of course option 2, It's ultimately the same thing. The only difference with the alternative is that in lieu of the rock wall, we are asking for a fence. So today we're here to ask the council for you all to approve the recommendation for option one, which is a base bid one and base bid two to the lower bidder. If there's any questions or comments.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you. Mr. Medina, so then just for my own clarification, the idea, and I would think the idea for the fence is also kind of a safety issue in terms versus having a rock wall. Was that a consideration?
Yes, sir. So ultimately, what we're looking at is, of course, trying to do our due diligence and being, fiscally constrained. We weighed the option to see how further we could save money in that format. With regard to maintenance and regard to safety, we felt that the rock wall is probably the better approach. And so that's why we made that recommendation. I mean, there is a slight difference of a couple of $1,000. I think it was about $30,000. But in the long run, the oplaic wall will serve a better structural element for that area, along with maintenance. It will certainly help with maintenance.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, Jim Martinez, City Attorney. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard this before, but I simply wanted to say it out loud. Just FYI, I have in the past represented the proposed contractor, JAR Concrete, on unrelated matters. I haven't represented them in a number of years. I simply wanted Council to hear that from me first.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Perez?
So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and amend my motion to award the bid as per the staff recommendation.
Second.
Mayor, we do have two speakers for this item. Miriam Cruz.
Thank you. I had a question, and since sometimes you guys answer my questions and sometimes you don't, I'm just going to assume the answer is no. My question is this supposed to be going around the entire empty lot that is currently sitting there? In other words, the lot that was supposed to be split into two, half of it was going to be a pond and half of it was going to be a park. If that's the case, that everything is going to be enclosed by the rock wall, it seems like a really, really, really expense for the entire thing to be turned into a pond with a rock wall and cement and stuff, when a part of it could be turned into a park. And so, it's sad to know that that much money is going to go into a ponding area, obviously because it's needed and safety reasons. But it's sad to recognize when that area was supposed to be a park to begin with, or at least half of it or some of it, which is what the residents in that area were promised by the developer. I know that there was talks previously with them and city staff, but I'm just concerned as to whether the alternative, obviously, yes, long-term maintenance of a park, is going to be probably more than maintenance of the pond. But, we're talking about quality
Ms.
of
Cruz,
life.
your time is up.
Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez.
Council, Mayor, thank you for allowing me to speak. Council took it upon himself about 2 years ago to start doing away with fences because kids were going into the ponding area. So we already passed an ordinance. I don't know why Mike continues to bring this up and give bids for it when we already passed an ordinance about 2 years ago. I brought it up And we said we no longer want to have a park slash ponding anymore also. We voted for that too. It is very crucial because we started even changing the one right there by H.D. Healy, that pond that had a fence, because children were going into that, jumping into those that area as well. So we started and we took it upon ourselves to start changing for the safety of our children. This is something that we brought up, actually the sidewalks as well. We brought this up back in July, and the reason why we brought this up, and I'm glad that we hopefully we approve, is because we did not get these safe routes to school. And therefore, I took it upon myself to bring it to council to say, look, we didn't get the safe routes to school that we applied for. We didn't get awarded, but thank God we got awarded the Passmore, which is great because this should start, like Tannenbaum said, we're going to start this year.
Mr.
So
Rodriguez,
that's
your
great.
time is up.
Thank you.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos. Ms. Villalobos,
I'm sorry, what are we voting for?
to approve and award staff's recommendation. We're on item number 11.
Okay, and what's the recommendation?
We're awarding it to the lower bidder, JAR Concrete.
And so is this gonna be a slash pond park?
Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So for everybody's clarification is that what is recorded in the subdivision is a park and a pond. This is not a park pond combination. So later we're going to come back through Public Works and develop the park internally. So what we're addressing here is the amenities, which is the infrastructure in terms of the sidewalk around the entire facility. The rock wall will go around the basin, which is commonly called the pond, to include a gate so that we can maintain it.
And so the park's gonna, I'm sorry. And the park's gonna be separate.
So we're required to provide a park. So at a later date, once we advance the construction around the Mauro Rosas subdivision, Public Works is going to develop the park.
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Mr. Perez?
If you all remember, there was some discussion about the idea that when we had the combination of the park and the basin, that when during the summer months, if there was standing water, it exacerbated the mosquito situation. And so that's when we started getting away from having that combination. And also because it helps with the maintenance of the whole area. That was my understanding. Maybe I'm a little bit off on that.
Okay, yes. Thank you, everyone.
Item number 8, discussion and action to approve an agreement of collaboration between the City of Socorro, Texas and the University of Texas at El Paso.
Motion to approve for discussion?
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Again, Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator for the City of Socorro. The item before you is an action to approve an agreement of collaboration with the University of Texas at El Paso's Minority AIDS Research Center. The MARC Center assists communities in El Paso, Hudspeth, Jeff Davis, Presidio, and Brewster counties to identify contributors and affiliated factors to health disparities, specifically among minority populations. They also create programs and solutions to address these health disparities. The community of Socorro has been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, in large part because we do have existing socioeconomic factors and social determinants of health that disproportionately affect our community. In order to prepare for a future pandemic and help our residents recover from this pandemic, the city must maximize the use of partnerships with researchers, universities, and also health providers to address any existing health gaps and health disparities. So the agreement before you is just an agreement of collaboration. It will allow the city of Socorro to formally partner with the Mark Center for potential funding opportunities and projects. In fact, we have already begun work on a partnership for a grant through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration that we'll be bringing to council during our next council meeting. There is no monetary commitment for this partnership. It's just an agreement of collaboration.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 9, discussion and action to award the Sparks Arroyo Drainage Improvements Phase 2 bid 20-03 construction contract to Texas CDBG contract 7218460 to CMD Endeavors Inc. in the amount of $136,970.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is a grant-funded project for Sparks Arroyo Drainage Improvement Phase 2. As you recall, we received funding from the Texas Department of Agriculture for Phase 1 of the project back in 2014. We have also received funding for Phase 2 of the project. In your backup, you do have the engineer's letter of recommendation, as well as a bid tabulation for all of the 7 bids received. We are recommending award of the contract to CMD Endeavors. They were the lowest bidder, and they were able to meet all of the requirements of the bid.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Mayor, we have a speaker for this item. Rene Rodriguez.
Thank you. I just want to say that this is something that we've been working on forever. I would just want to thank our grant writer. She does a tremendous job. I hope she keeps doing a good job. This is something because it always hurts us when we get the runoff, and it's very important to start doing these projects. I hope that council moves forward and tries to acquire more grants to keep these projects going.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 10, discussion and action to approve the third amendment to the CARES Act funding interlocal agreement between the City of Socorro and El Paso and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute agreement.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This item before you is a third amendment to our existing interlocal agreement with El Paso County, which allows us to receive CARES Act funding through them as a subrecipient. As you recall, if you've seen in the news, recently President Trump did sign the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which extends the period during which recipients such as the City of Socorro can use these CARES Act dollars through December 31st of 2021. This is really good for us. It allows us to use some of that funding that we were not able to use through 2021 to procure our PPE and several other eligible costs that were not previously budgeted and that we had to incur because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
City Manager, item number 12, discussion and action to appoint Mayor Ivy Avalos or any council member to be a board member to the Transportation Policy Board of the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Mayor, we skipped number 12.
No, that was number 12. The Transportation Policy Board?
Yes.
Are we good?
Yes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve for discussion?
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Due to our new council, we do have a vacancy at the TPB board. And we wanted to bring it to council, making sure that we don't lose our vote since we have so much momentum going in those agencies. And normally that position does pertain to the mayor, but it is up to council who they want to appoint.
I think, Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Perez?
I think it would be most appropriate if the mayor attend or is appointed to that position. That way, you'll be able to come back with whatever information and start dialoguing with the city manager and the appropriate personnel so that we can keep these things going. So I would hope that we would go ahead and appoint the mayor.
Agree.
I agree too.
Mr. Reyes, would you like to amend your motion?
Motion to appoint or Mayor Ivy Avalos to be a board member to the Transportation Policy Board of El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization with Resolution 631.
Second.
Mayor, we do have a speaker for this item, Rene Rodriguez.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
Council
Rodriguez.
and Mayor, my 2 cents on this, since I was sitting there at the PB board, I think at this time I would appoint Ms. Villalobos for the fact that we're fighting for funding at the moment. There's a lot of projects that aren't covered with funding. That's something that we need to fight for, and I think that Villalobos, because she's been there, she understands a little bit more. I think that we should have somebody there that would fight for our funding. And no disrespect to the mayor, but just that's my 2 cents is leave Villalobos. Just for the fact that she's been there more and she understands it a little bit better. And with time, you can do that transition. But that's just my 2 cents.
Question.
Mr. Perez?
Is there anything in terms of the main point of contact being the mayor, and then Ms. Avalos going, I apologize, Ms. Colombia Avalos going in at, attending the meetings? Is there anything wrong with that? And again, I'm just asking our staff.
No, sir, I think that is allowed. That's what Mr. Rodriguez would do. Right, it wasn't the mayor or staff would go and during the transition when we had our last mayor attend, we would go to assist. And that's what Ms. Yvonne Colombianos can do, or they can appoint her to the board. It's completely up to council.
Mr. Duran?
Would it be possible, to appoint Mr. Medina to that board, because he ran it for like 17 years. He knows the ins and outs, and then have mayor attend with him, and like Mr. Pettis said, transition in later, like him be your training wheels. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, Mayor, unfortunately for the TPB, it does have to be an elected official. I'm just being told by Ms. Mayela, our executive assistant, which was their former executive assistant, that for the TPB, it has to be an elected official. For the TPAC, I think that staff would be able to attend.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, is that the mayor would be the actual designee for that, for the placement on that. body, and Ms. Villalobos could accompany her, um, to the meetings. And again, I don't think that there would be anything wrong with doing that, because at that point, Ms. Villalobos can provide information to our mayor as she becomes more familiar with what's going on at the MPO. Again, that's just my recommendation.
Ms. Mayor?
Ms. Villalobos?
Okay, so I don't mind being appointed and then maybe later on switching over. I'm not sure if you guys realize that Miss Mayor's plate is extremely full right now with getting familiar with everything. And the MPO can be pretty rough and tough. And so we need to have a voice that's going to go in there and just, fight for whatever our rights are and our funds and whatnot. And we did sit at the TPAC meeting this week. She is appointed at the TPAC. We sat side by side and we listened to the meeting together. We studied it together. But right now she's being, to me, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking for mayor at all. We haven't even discussed this. Kind of thin right now.
But that's what I'm saying is that, unfortunately, and I think that when it comes to stuff like this, there is no good time not to do it. I don't know if that makes any sense. You need to get your feet wet, I think. And I think she would be capable of doing that. That's why I'm saying or asking, would it be possible for Mayor Avalos to be designated and for you to attend with her at that time? Because ultimately, I think in terms of the representation, you're very capable, Mr. Villalobos, obviously, but I think that there's no when it comes to, I think Miss Avalos or Mayor Avalos just needs to jump in and get it done, because there with your input at the meeting. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have give the mayor her due her due spot on that body.
Mr. Duran?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Perez. The mayor is the head of the city. And I think also if Mike would not mind uh, kind of mentoring her, because he does have a lot of experience with the MPO and with all of those positions, and he can kind of guide her. And Ms. Villalobos can also go too. I've been to these meetings also. Anybody can go. It's open, and so I think that Mike can kind of guide her. Like I said, be your training wheels, and you be the bicycle.
Ms. Villalobos?
Again, guys, I think I have a louder voice. And we just can't, and I'm not saying nothing about mayor, but I know when you first start, you're kind of timid. It's not easy for just to get in there and just, you know, say what you need to say without, feeling that you're going to hurt somebody's feelings or you're going to say something wrong or et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I was saying we can transition into it until she gets her tough voice in there. But I'm not sure Mr. Mayor at all.
I disrespectfully disagree, because there's no better time than the present. Unfortunately, in these kinds of situations, it's a baptism by fire. And so I'm sure she's capable of handling it. And to Mr. Duran's point, she is more than capable of consulting with Mr. Medina and you, because she needs to establish herself as the duly elected head of the city council of Socorro. And so I think that, again, there's nothing saying that or bars Mr. Medina or Ms. Colombia Lobos in attending. But I think in terms of an official designee, it should be the mayor.
I agree.
Okay, well, thank you for talking about it on my behalf. I wouldn't mind Miss Villalobos coming with me, or if one of us is appointed, that would be just fine. I think at this point, I would like the chance to get my feet wet. I'm not sure what all of you think, but let's go ahead and take it for a vote.
Ruben Reyes,
Just had a little question about, is there a limit of people that can attend with the mayor? Yeah.
Mr. Medina?
Uh, just from experience, what is important and the takeaway from the MPO is that there is a designated representative at the policy board. There is also a designated representative um, at the technical committee. So what that said is that those two individuals are bound to attend for that body. Uh, Normally, in the normal term before COVID, uh, it's a it's a venue that's open to the public. So right now, the MPO is conducting the meeting virtually as well, and anybody can attend.
As Ms. Villalobos stated, we did attend the TPAC meeting. We were both watching, and I think we did a pretty good job in just going over everything. So if you'd like to vote on this, that'd be great.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
So clarify this for me. We're voting on
To
what
appoint-
exactly? Is it the mayor?
the
And
mayor.
if she needs additional information or help, hey, we were just talking about Mike Medina having served for so many years. So my suggestion is the mayor, and if you need additional information, let's contact Mike Medina on that. Let's not have the group what we've had in the past, for lack of a better word.
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Medina this week before the meeting, so it helped greatly. I also spoke to him about getting together with him this coming week because we do have a special meeting for the TPAC, which I believe is either the 14th or the 15th, and just to go over some more things with him.
Okay. Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
And just to clarify, Mr. Nevares, this is not a group thing. This is something I started a while back, and just because Mr. Rodriguez is not here, I don't want to lose the momentum, and I actually want to learn from it. And
No.
unfortunately, but
This
it has
is-
nothing to do with a group. Never here, not
this-
here.
This is just perception, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but I
What
can't stop.
happens
I can't stop growing and learning because of perception. So, and I thank everybody's opinion. I really do, and I vote yes.
And the motion was to appoint Ms. Avalos.
Item number 13, discussion and action to appoint Mayor Ivy Avalos or any council member to be committee member to the Transportation Project Advisory Committee with the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Motion to appoint Mayor Avalos to that board.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
I believe we have a speaker on number 13.
yes, I'm sorry, we do. Sal Chagoya,
Mr. Chagoya has left the meeting.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 14, discussion and action to appoint one elected council member to become investment officer to the Socorro Public Finance or Investment Board per Ordinance 250, Amendment 1, and Ordinance 321.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, due to the vacancy of due to the departure of Mr. Rodriguez, leaves a vacancy for one council member to serve in the committee of the Finance Investment Committee. Per our ordinance, we should be meeting and making recommendations on how we will invest our funding, and if there's any money being moved, it goes through this committee for a vote, so we can go ahead and make the transaction. That way, not only staff is making those decisions, but staff and council together.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Perez?
When does the committee meet usually, Adriana? Is it during the day or when is the?
Right, so normally, the course of business is when we have an item, either we're seeing a percentage in the interest rate going up, and we see that there's an opportunity that we need to move money, or there has to be transferring of money because we're needing more on the general fund. We request for a meeting. We send out an email, and we provide times of availability so we can go ahead and meet. There's not a specific date or time. Bylaws don't require that. We can also change that, that could be brought up by this board and make recommendations to the current procedures.
Mr. Duran?
I think we should appoint one person from each election cycle. That way, in case two people that are on there lose, there'd be no continuity. If we have somebody from each election cycle on that board or on that committee, then there won't be any loss of momentum, loss of, we have to start from scratch.
I agree with Mr. Uda.
Do we have a motion?
We have a speaker as well?
But we don't have a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if I may, I'll go ahead and make a motion to appoint Ms. Colombia Lobos to the Finance Committee, or what?
She's already on.
Okay, so Ms.
Oh.
Colombia Lobos already serves in that committee.
Apologize.
Mr. Reyes?
I make a motion to,
Go ahead.
well, I was gonna make a motion to appoint Mr. Reyes to the committee, if he would like to.
I was gonna do the same.
Oh,
If
okay.
it's okay with council, I would like to be part of this. I read the ordinance policies, and I believe I'll take the right choices for city.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we do have a speaker for this item. Rene Rodriguez.
Mayor and Council, as somebody that was there that had these meetings, I just wanted to say that I would like that Mr. Perez would take my position. But if you guys feel that Mr. Reyes is capable of, then that's okay. But I think that Mr. Perez, because he's an administrator, I think he would do great as well. Like I said, these meetings occur whenever they're available. So that's just my 2 cents.
Ms. Mayor?
Ms. Villalobos?
So, just so you guys know, we've had 4 meetings, and they're usually about 11:30 on a weekday, 11:30, 1, 2 on a weekday. And they're about 30 to 45 minutes. And I also would like to ask, Ms. City Manager, Ms. Rodarte, how many can get appointed to this committee?
One moment, I'm trying to turn on my camera.
Okay.
Yes, so the policy states that it would be the finance director, the city manager, and 2 elected officials.
And that's it?
Correct. You can always amend the policy.
Okay.
But for
Well,
right now, that's
'cause
what it.
we had mentioned something about getting a constituent involved, and this way you have a constituent and two city representatives and staff too. But that's, I don't know, if we have to post for that or if we can
Wouldn't
hope.
that mean to change the ordinance though? Is
Correct,
that what
so
we're-
you're not posted for that.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Pettis.
I appreciate Mr. Rodriguez's consideration and um, suggestion, but it's hard for me to attend. You all know it's hard for me to attend meetings during the day, and so I wouldn't want to say yes and then not be able to fulfill it. And so I'm more than comfortable with Mr. Reyes being on the committee. And beyond that, we all have the same interest in terms of making sure that the city is financially stable and we make financially sound decisions. So that's fine with me. But I appreciate the consideration.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 15, discussion and action on city manager's contract.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The reason I placed the item on the agenda is I have been without a contract for 10 months. I really don't have other than, I'm here to serve my public and council. And I don't know if you'll have discussion over the contract.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Pettis?
I think that we owe it to Ms. Rodarte to finalize the contract. Again, and I've said this before, she's done an awesome job with the city, within the city. We can see it moving forward. As a professional, it's unfair to her to keep her on a month to month without any kind of assurance that she can, that she has a job beyond tomorrow. And so I think that we're in a situation now where we need to get the city moving forward or keep it going because we've talked about momentum. And I think that Ms. Rodarte is part of that momentum and because she leads it. And so, those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I apologize, Ms. Rodarte, I don't have that particular item in front of me. So is there any way you can just detail or contract what it states right now? If we were to approve it?
Correct, so the contract that you have in front of you is the last contract that I signed. Depending on council's decision on any stipulations that you place on the contract, that would have to be drafted by the attorney once we have direction from council.
And the details of the, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize.
They're pulling it up, ma'am, so you can go ahead
Oh,
and.
okay.
Mr. Duran?
I've seen other city manager contracts. I'd like to see some um, like goals and things like of that nature in there. In other words, what her plans are for the city, and that's the type of thing I'd like to see in the contract also. And then also reviews, things of that nature. That way, it doesn't, we can see where we're going and have a vision of where the city manager, how the council gives her the vision of where we're going, and I want to see her give us a vision of how we're going to get there. If we can put that into a contract.
Ms. Rodarte?
Yes, so the current contract does talk about performance evaluations, which I've never had since the 5 years that I've been here. Also, I think that the expectation and the should be set by council, so I can know what the expectation is. As you all know, it's a body, So I have 6 different bosses. If you don't tell me what the expectation is, then I don't know what I'm reaching for. So the contract should be something that council dictates what exactly it is that they're looking for.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, about what Mr. Duran is saying, I think a lot of that can be said in the evaluations to ask her where she's going, what's her plan in other words, and also recommendations from each one of us.
Mr. Perez?
I agree. I think that in terms of there's, I think that we're talking about two different things. The instrument by which she's going to be evaluated with, which to Mr. Reyes's point would be something that we would have scaled out, that we would identify points of performance. She's going by whatever we decide that would be, and we can do that through a workshop maybe of some sort, to establish those goals, because that's what we're looking at is the goals and the meeting those goals, right? And then rating her on how she performed in achieving those goals. And so I think that that would be a separate instrument. And we have in the past talked about having, and I think there has to be somewhere, an archive or on file, the like almost like um, a scale of performance. And I'm not sure if we did it with your predecessor, Ms. Rodarte, but I think that exists somewhere, no?
Yes, so with Mr. Norfleet, I do recall that our mayor, Jesus Ruiz, created an evaluation and he brought it to council to make sure that you all evaluated him.
So
That was
then,
created
I'm
through
sorry.
Mayor Ruiz. We can definitely go back and see if that document does exist.
So then, if it's okay with everybody, I think that would be it doesn't mean that we have to use that document exactly, but use that as a basis for developing the evaluation tool for Ms. Rodarte without having to spin wheels. I mean, it's already there. We just need to tweak it and make sure that we put in what we need to, because that's already in place too. And so I think that would maybe satisfy what Mr. Duran is asking for in term, and then certainly I think this body would agree that we would go ahead and use that as a basis. Again, that's just a suggestion, but if it's already there, why not just tweak it and go forward with it?
Agreed.
Yep.
I agree as well.
Mayor, we do have several speakers for this item. Our first speaker is Alejandro Garcia.
Hello, council. I think it's a shame that keeping the city manager month to month, and I'll be very honest with you, I don't know how many people would stay on a job when it's a month to month situation, but I see where somebody who cares about the city and does this, stays on. And like I said in my prior statement, has taken pay cuts to make sure that everything goes as smooth as possible with the items that we had back in the day. So those are things that people need to look at when we're evaluating, and the contract is great that we're talking about it. I just hope it doesn't take another 10 months or even more than that, because that's a lack of leadership upon council. And we need to make sure that if we want 100% from our employees, we need to make sure we get them and let them know that they're okay to be working not month to month, but year to year. Thank you.
Pablo Barrera.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. You know what? I'm gonna be very honest here. Everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. I know myself and Ms. Rodarte had a rough start in the beginning, but you know what? To me, that shows exceptional leadership when we were able to iron the issues that we had, and we moved forward. And that's exactly what the city needs: is a person that can work through the issues with its constituents and make the city moving forward. And she has demonstrated that to us time and time again, exceptionally. So I think, yes, to echo what Mr. Garcia, Mr. Perez said, it is rightfully so that she does get this contract. Um, I think that would be a rough spot being in limbo for 10 months. I don't think that that's fair. So being that the work ethic that she has demonstrated and the performance that she has demonstrated to its constituents, I think it's rightfully so that she does deserve this contract.
Yes, Mayor.
Ms. Villalobos?
Thank you, gentlemen, for your words. And I think you will understand that she should have she should have had a contract months and months ago. And I believe she will. I hope that she will. I too will say that she and I have come up to growing together and learning from each other a lot, and I appreciate that. And I say that with a very, not lightly. I don't say that lightly. And so I appreciate her and everything that she's done for the city. She's a true trooper for our city, and it's just a matter of time. Hopefully soon we can just get a really good contract and get a good evaluation, so this doesn't happen again, and that everybody's present so we could get this contract signed and going. And those are my 2 cents. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Rodarte.
Madam Mayor, may I have one more comment, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Perez?
If we can, Adriana, if, because I can't say that it will pass, but if it passes, which I hope it will, would you be able to provide the appraisal instrument maybe by next meeting, so that we can put it on the agenda and start working on it, so that that way you're not flying blind as far as goals are concerned?
Yes, sir. I will have our new HR director and our attorney's work, Mr. Bruce Keeler, work on something that we can present to council at the next meeting. I did want to mention that the evaluation is something separate from the contract. I really do feel very strongly, I do not want to continue working not one day more without a contract in place. I think that it's been 10 months and, it's just not fair.
Yes, absolutely. Madam Mayor, and I agree. I just, as a function of the staff, just to provide the template for the evaluation tool.
Angélica Ramírez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, as a constituent of the city of Socorro, I have never, absolutely never seen a city manager so involved with the community as Ms. Rodarte. I firmly believe she's a big asset to the city. A great example is just what happened with us here in a subdivision. She was the only one to come through for us, the constituents, in a huge safety issue. I would hate to see the city move backwards and not forward. I strongly believe we owe the city manager a contract. Her contract where she's not in the limbo, just a month-to-month contract. Thank you.
René Rodríguez.
Yes, I know that it's very unfortunate that Ms. Rodarte has no contract. I know that 2 members of council wouldn't show up when it came time for it. And I think that's water under the bridge. I think that this council should give her a contract, give her parameters in which she needs to abide by. If she doesn't fulfill her, you give her an opportunity to amend those errors if she commits any. and then therefore you take action afterwards if she doesn't fulfill those. And that's how you determine if she's doing a good job or not. You know, we tried to do it in the past. That's why it took forever. And then COVID came up. You know, I want to say that I was one of those that I was at fault. I should have brought it forward. I didn't. That was an error on my part. But when we did try to bring it, members of council didn't show up. So that's, like I said, hopefully this new council will do the right thing for not only her, because she's a resident of the city. Her heart is here in the city. She's the only city manager that I know that comes in at 7 in the morning, leaves at 6, 7, doesn't mind going to constituents and helping their problems. I was there where Willie Norfleet used to arrive at 9:30 in the morning.
Mr.
and leave at
Rodriguez, your
5.
time is up.
Thank you.
Sal Chagoya was signed up, but has since left the meeting.
Mr.
Yes,
Chagoya
ma'am.
has not joined the meeting.
Elia Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I respect everyone's decision regarding the city manager's contract, and I agree that she shouldn't be working without a contract. However, her contract is a very important issue and it needs to be brought to council with ample time so that in time of any discrepancies, it can be discussed by everyone in council. Also, I do agree with everybody. I think that there needs to be a rubric, an evaluation rubric included in the contract. It would only be fair for this board as well as for her to see how to evaluate her and where she stands based on her performance. At the moment, she's been saying that she's done a great job, but there's no mechanism to go back and numerically see, okay, she's fulfilled 5 out of the 10 goals or 6 out of the 10 goals. And this way, everyone knows where her performance is and where the city is going forward. Thank you.
Gina Cordero.
I had already spoken before the meeting started. Thank you, ma'am.
Mayor, those were all our speakers.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. One more comment, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pettis.
I think that we're all in agreement that we need to have an evaluation tool, a rubric of some sort. But I don't believe that it should be in the contract because the rubric is a function of the supervision of Ms. Duarte, which I think it gets into the personnel issues. And I think that the rubric itself, can always be made public or made available as a separate document. I don't think that it has to live in the actual contract itself. So I think that we should just, at this point, call the question and vote on it.
Ms. Villalobos?
I completely agree with Mr. Bettis, but I just want Mr. Martinez to válgame, I forgot what I was going to say. What Mr. Martinez, you know what I want to say. Just to make sure that what Mr. Bettis said is true.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, he's correct. It certainly need not be in the contract. It is possible. I mean, I guess it's not unheard of. I don't think it's the norm. I think the norm is you have the contract controls the terms of employment, which is basically the employee's obligations on a day-to-day basis, outside employment, residence, that sort of stuff. And then, of course, the compensation package. There's sometimes some reference to the degree of supervision or references to direct communications with city staff. The goals that you're discussing, I have seen them in city manager and similar contracts. More often, though, they are separate instruments. And particularly, I think that's a function of the city manager's position, because just because of the nature of her position, whatever goals you would have for her, to no small degree, would be the city council's goals for the city administration as a whole. And I know it's not necessarily a good example to use, but in the city of El Paso, there's a set of strategic goals that are the cities as a whole. And the city council and city staff and went through a long process to arrive at those goals and agree upon those goals. And yes, that happens to be how the city manager is evaluated periodically, but they're not necessarily the city manager's goals alone. They're the larger city's goals as a whole.
Thank you, sir. I just don't want to leave any questions hanging out there. For those that are listening, they probably had the same question. And I want to thank you for elaborating and educating us. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, may I?
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. As a drafter, my only, if council approves the contract, we'll put it in writing and bring it before council. The one thing I simply wanted to do was make sure, we may not bring it before council. If you approve it, we'll just prepare it and have it executed. But the terms of the contract, for instance, the compensation, is it council's intent that it stay the same? Is there an increase? Is there not just salary, but is the deferred comp the same? Is the insurance the same? Are the allowances any change? My point is, if there are any changes, tell us so that we can embody that in the contract.
Ms. Rodarte? I believe you had something to say.
Yes, I just wanted to circle back on the evaluations. Is that the contract does stipulate that I should be evaluated already, so that language does exist. Also wanted to bring up to council that, council approved for the contract to be 4 years through a charter change, and the public voted for it. The public is, stated that yes, they want the continuity to stay here in the city.
Again, Ms. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, Ms. Villalobos?
Martinez. So we should change, based on the information Ms. Rodarte just gave us, and yes, I remembered that it had passed. Do we need to change it now? Can we leave it the same? What do we do? Since it's in the charter now, or will be. You're on mute, sir. Mr. Martinez, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, Ms. Colon-Villalobos, you digitized there for a second and I lost the audio. Can you say that again?
So Mrs. Rodarte just mentioned that we just passed, the charter has changed to 4 years instead of 2 years or 24 months to 48 months. And her contract states, the current contract right now states 24 months. Is that something that we need to change?
You can, you are not obligated to. The change to 48 months was imposed as a limit, as was the prior limit of 24 months. I think that the language was council shall not hire the city manager with a term of contract longer than, and it was 24 months and now it's 48 months.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, Mr. Rodarte, there was one more change that you talked about? Oh, the evaluation. Should we also
the language already
put a
exists.
timeline when that first evaluation should come in?
So the
Yes, ma'am, that is, let me say two things. Let me go back to your earlier question. You said, should you? I guess I would be remiss if I didn't tell the council, limits on terms like that are common in city manager contracts and charters and other similar provisions. Even though they're limits, which means you could make it a shorter term if you wanted to, I can tell you the widespread practice is that's common. The minimum is commonly seen as the standard, and most municipalities they'll have a term of contract that is for the maximum, or in this case the maximum permitted, which in this case is the minimum term of the maximum term of 48 months. And to your other question, the frequency of the evaluation is usually embodied in the contract as well. Usually it's annually. I guess, again, I have seen otherwise, sometimes it's 24 months.
Okay, Mr. Rodarte. So on the contract right now, it states every 6 months, correct?
That is correct.
You're muted, ma'am.
That is correct.
That is correct. So what I'm trying to say here as council members, we have not given her an evaluation. So can we set a time frame for that to start the very first one? only because we have new members.
Okay.
Mr. Reyes?
Would the time start as soon as we sign the contract? Sign the contract, and 6 months later, we can do the evaluation.
Mayor, I'm not sure that was directed at me, but may I?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Martinez.
Was it Mr. Reyes who asked the question?
Yes.
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 And I'm sorry, Mr. Reyes, I'm scrolling through different screens. The answer to your question is that, I mean, you certainly can do that. You could probably arrange it so that it's different, such as the contract was retroactive to a particular date. That seems kind of cumbersome. I think the most natural, most straightforward way to do is to say the day it's signed is day one, or today is day one, and X months from now will be the first period of evaluation.
Mr. Duran?
I say we just leave it as is with the 6 month evaluation. We have new members that, they can get used to it a lot. If they have something that they have to bring forward, they don't have to wait a year. They can bring it forward within 6 months. I think we just leave everything the same, and move on.
I agree.
Mr. Perez?
I think that in terms of establishing the timeline for evaluations, I think that if this is approved, which I hope it is, and it's signed, then we can, as a council, have a workshop, or of course, follow all the procedures for open meetings, and establish those goals with Ms. Rodarte. I think that would be fair to ask her where she's at, where she wants to be, and then we as council work with her to establish agreed upon goals, so that we know where we're going, and then we establish the rubric. Again, that's why I would ask that we see the previous rubric or the previous evaluation instrument of her predecessor, so that we can work off of that as soon as possible, maybe the next meeting, so that we can go ahead and establish that. That way, she doesn't lose time in terms of getting working on the goals or her expectations, and we can set them up for her.
Mr. Duran?
Also, this contract can be amended at any time. Am I correct, Jim?
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Can it be amended at any time? I mean, two parties to a contract can always agree to amend the contract.
That way, let's say if we see that 6 months is going to be too quick, we can always just put something in the contract saying it'll be a year instead of 6 months.
If yes, provided there's an agreement. I mean, it's not
Both sides have to agree. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the motion is to approve for 48 months?
But Mayor and Council, if I may, I still need to know the terms, and even if there are no changes, you still need to tell me. I would request just affirmation, the terms that are in place now, so I know how to draft the contract.
So if I can go ahead and amend my motion to approve the contract with the terms not to exceed 4 years, and of course there's always in any case it allows for severability anyway. So even if we don't get to the 4 years, I mean there's provisions there in terms of separating from the city. So I would say the 4 years timeline or duration or term.
Second.
Ruben Reyes?
Yes.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Martinez.
And Mayor, really for you, was it your perception that the council's intent was that the other terms of the contract remain the same?
I believe so.
Understood. Thank you,
I
ma'am.
believe the city manager employment agreement would stay the same, but it would be I believe 4 years instead of 2 years. Moving on to item number 16, discussion and action to renew the district office space agreement for Tony Gonzalez, Congressman District Representative.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you all know, Will Hurd did not run again, so the person that was elected was Tony Gonzalez, and his chief of staff has reached out to us to see if we're still willing to lease an office for them. And I told him I can't make those decisions. I have to bring it to council, and that's why it's here. I know the agenda item says to renew, but it wouldn't be renew. It would be to allow our new Congressman Tony Gonzalez to occupy the office.
Ms. Villalobos?
It would be the same office that they have, that little office in the down the hall, in the.
So right now, we're currently assessing that, as we do have our city auditor that is in need of an office, was using council's office, but I do know that council is a little more active in going to the office. So we were thinking of changing Martina to that office, the city auditor where Martina is at right now, and allow them either the office that council uses right now, because there's a bigger office that can accommodate them right off of the conference room, for more than one council member at a time.
Okay, and his staff would be in there, or his one staff, two staff?
Normally, it's their representative for the region here. The last one, Karina Rivera, was really hardly ever there. But however, the one before that, they were there a little bit more often, like on a daily basis. So it just depends on, I think, how he wants to manage his district office here. He might want to have someone full-time, or he might just want to have someone part-time. I think those are the agreements.
I'm sorry, you're very muffled. I apologize.
I am
didn't hear what you
sorry.
said.
I need to speak up. Sorry about that. I said that that's really up to Mr. Gonzalez and his staff agreement. I don't know what the agreements are. I was asked if they're able to use one of our offices so they can conduct business and represent their constituents here in this area.
One more question, I apologize. Can that office be shared? The last thing I want is that office to be there empty all year long, or the next 3 years or 4 years empty, or the next 2 years and only used 20 times.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing that office, just because it creates a liability of, well, staff members went in there, documents are missing. I wouldn't recommend that. I think that if we do allow them to occupy an office, that we do provide them the privacy to be able to maintain whatever documents they need.
And I did not know that. I did not know they would leave their documents in that office. I thought it was just an office they share and take their stuff with them at the end of.
No, they bring in their furniture and printer, and I mean, they conduct business in that
Gotcha.
office.
Thank you for the education.
Mr. Reyes?
I got a question. Once they take over their office, are we allowed to, let's say, move them to a different office? Or would it have to stay the same location of the office?
So that would be the stipulations that we put on the agreement. Right now, I did present the agreement that we currently had with Will Hurd. I haven't been presented with a new agreement, and those options can be discussed when we're negotiating.
I agree with, excuse me, with Adriana. I mean, you could include that in the term. It's a leasehold. I don't know if council is aware. What you've done in the past is you've had a written lease with that rep, with that congressperson. And so assuming you had another written lease, you could negotiate that. You could make it for Office X and then give the city, under certain terms, the option to reassign them to an equivalent office on a certain number of days notice.
Mr. Nevares?
Talking about the lease, Adriana, is it still the same amount or will this be changing?
This is really up to council. Right now, I think it's $1 a month
Oh my
that
goodness.
we receive, and that would completely be up to council if they want to increase that or leave it the same.
I think we should charge a little more. What do you guys think?
Mr. Duran?
I agree with Mr. With Caesar. A dollar is, it kind of like, it could be, people could say that we're buying the senator. Whereas if we charge him something that's a more realistic, then he is just a tenant. I don't want people having that perception that, oh, we're giving them just space for $1, and we're going to expect something in return. So I agree with Mr. Nevares that we should look at a fair rental.
Mr. Nevares?
Can we get some information, Adriana, as to, for example, what offices being leased out in the city to these officials, what they're currently charging, and maybe we can do something comparable.
Definitely, we can research and bring that back at our next meeting.
Mr. Perez?
Also, I do agree that we need to go ahead and add to the contract the mobility. Then because we need to take care of our situation first. Then if we need the office space, then we would move them, like Mr. Martinez said, to a comparable office as much as possible, so that in case that we need it, that we have that availability and that option.
Ms. Villalobos?
And Mr. Darte, how are we doing with office space there? Because I think we're already packed. I mean, there's no room to grow.
Yes, we're pretty limited. I think we can accommodate one more, but that doesn't mean that the city isn't growing and our staff is going to eventually expand. So, I mean, we are running a little low in vacancies. Like right now, I have my auditor just pretty much waiting to see where we're gonna place her, just based on the conversation we're having tonight.
And one more question. And do we have any other spaces? I know that we moved the police department into that new unit, and we have other buildings. Have you thought of something like moving?
Correct. So for the substation, I did want to move our IT and our code enforcers so the public can have and direct access to the code enforcement division, just like they did with the police officers. You know, that they could go ring the bell and file their complaints, not go through the planning and zoning, and then be a little bit more separated. That was an idea. We are checking the building just to make sure it's in compliance. Plus, there are some property and evidence that still needs to be moved to the police department, and that should happen within the next couple of weeks. But that's what we had in mind.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
Don't we have to be careful with that building in front, with the police department? Isn't it historical? Don't we have to be careful how we any improvements we make to it?
Yes, sir. That would go through the HLC. I mean, we would follow all of, but we're not asking for modifications. We're just asking to create, so that building already has offices. We're asking just the code enforcers to be able to have an area where the public has direct access to them. Plus our IT, there's a huge room out there. There's a lot of equipment, a lot of stuff that he needs, and a little bit of more privacy. And his department is expanding. We do have a part-timer and maybe a full-time. We'll request a full-timer next fiscal year. just because we are growing and I don't know if you've all received emails, and we have tons of scams emails, and that creates a lot of work for them. But if we were to do any modifications, it would go through the whole HLC. We would take out a permit and definitely bring it to council to see what modifications we would be making.
Mayor, we do have two speakers for this item. Pablo Barrera.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. You know what, as a veteran, somebody who's had to talk to my congressman before, it was very good for me as a constituent and as a veteran when I had to deal with VA concerns or any other concerns that I had to deal with and I had to address to them. It was very convenient to go to the building there and just talk to my congressman or the representative that was there, and they were readily accessible. So, I mean, to raise the rent, I don't think would probably be a good reason. Just for the reasons you guys gave, I think it's wise just to keep it as $1 because it allows our newly elected congressman to stay there for the constituents. I don't know why we're getting off topic about trying to move him office. I mean, we do want to build that relationship with the congressman because he could also help the city. So I don't understand why we want to be moving him from building to building, room to room. Let's just keep it simple and leave him in that office that's available to him. Yes, keep the privacy because I've given documents to them that it has my social security number on it. So yeah, I would like my documents locked up where nobody else has access to them. That's all I have to say, and I hope you guys do give him the space for the $1 that you guys have left, $1 a month. I appreciate it.
René Rodríguez.
Yes. I've been here for 7 years in council, and I was there when we gave the offices to Pete Gallego, and then from Mr. Hurd, and they were Pete Gallego's staff was always there. Mr. Hurd's was in and out, wasn't there every day, but it's very important to have them there for the sole reason, just like Mr. Barrera said, it's easier for our residents and our constituents to go in there and talk to them. I, as a resident, would want my congressman there. Pete Hurd, if he wasn't there in that office, he helped us with netbacks. We went to San Antonio with his help to try to see and get loans. So it's very important to have our congressman that is in our area in our building. And we're talking about, trying to stiff arm him. I mean, he might just decide if you're going to charge him, he might just decide go somewhere else. And you're going to do a disservice to our residents. I understand that we want to charge, and I get it. But I mean, we're going to do, ultimately, we want to help our residents be next to and facilitate them having access to us, to you guys, now to you, council, and our congressman. So it's very important
Mr.
and very
Rodriguez,
vital.
your time is up.
Mr. Nevares?
I agree, and I amend my motion. They're here to help us out, so if it's $1, it's $1.
Second.
Ruben Reyes.
Yes.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos. Ms. Villalobos?
Yes. By the way, Ms. Navarro, my name's not coming out. That's why I'm not saying anything. Just FYI.
You mean your name is not coming out when she's naming you?
That's correct.
Okay. So
That's like the 5th time
that you
or
don't
something.
hear her. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Item number 17, discussion and action to award RFP 20-05 State Legislative Lobbying Services to Forma Group LLC in the amount of 54,000 to provide a value approach to representation during the 2021 legislative session and authorize city manager or her designee to sign contract.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you recall, late last year, we came to council requesting for us to be able to go out and find an advocacy group. Currently, the legislature is not inclined to give authority to cities or counties. An advocacy group will identify modifications that can create a solution for some of the changes that we're needing in the city and create opportunities for us. City of Socorro lacks representation at the legislation level. We have identified several recommendations that we would like to go after during the legislation. An example is CARES Act funding. Why our portion has to go through the county of El Paso, not be given to the municipalities itself? You know, it seems like we have to be asking permission every time for any type of project that we have, and they decide whether they want to fund us or not. So that's something that maybe can be changed, and some of the bills just need either to add language to it or just make a modification in order to do that. However, we need an expert that I guess focuses on that. Okay, we have identified expansion of municipal powers, which I just talked about, the half-cent sales tax, the creation of our own emergency services, historic preservation funds, the CARES Act funds. Also, we had, mentioned solid waste utility creation. How can the city move forward? If we can, doesn't have to go through legislation or not. And then annexation, as you all know, the annexation was changed to pretty much make it impossible for us to annex. So maybe there's something that we can strive for this time around. We did go out for an RFP we went out for an RFP back in September. It was published September 6th and September 13th. Bids were open on September the 18th. However, at that time, we realized we were under lame duck, so we were not able to award that bid. We did receive two submittals, which was the AGS Group, which is an out-of-town firm, and Forma Group. We did go out. So because it passed 45 days, we had to go rebid again. We did notify both of the bidders that we were rebidding. That was published November 29th, and then again on December 6th. We opened bids on December 11th at 10:30 a.m., and the only submittal we received was Forma Group. Unfortunately, time has caught up to us, and the legislation does start on January the 12th, and they go into effect September of this year. So it would be for a time frame almost from here to October. I don't know if you all have any questions. We do have Marisa Marquez through Zoom if you have any questions for her directly.
Mr. Perez?
Thank you. Very quickly, in terms of, obviously, this went through the RFP process, right? And so will we be competing, I guess, for lack of a better term, your time in terms of the advocacy? Will we be clumped with other clients in terms of interests or similar interests? How will we get customized advocacy from Forma?
Is that directed at me? Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Whomever can answer it.
Yes, well, regarding Forma and the clients that we do have, you would be our only municipality. So there wouldn't be other competing interests of where we would be pushing or advocating for legislation with regard to municipalities or any of the items that Ms. Rodarte just listed regarding annexation and CARES Act funding, the relationship you all have with the county. You would be our only municipal client.
And then again, and then, if I may, Madam Mayor, follow-up question.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Perez.
Also, I see in the references that Mr. Zamora is listed, and we just had a presentation from Dannenbaum. And so I just want to make sure in terms of, and again, if this is approved, that there is no conflict of interest in terms of anything that you might foresee in terms of the activities.
No, sir. Dannenbaum was one of our clients. Our contract with them has since ended. It was mid-year last year. So we put them down as a reference. But certainly anything that comes up like that, Councilman Perez, we would bring to Ms. Rodarte's attention.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, and we have three speakers for this item. Miriam Cruz,
Ms. Cruz has left the meeting.
Rene Rodriguez,
Yes, I just want to give an insight. In 2013, when I got elected, we did have somebody on board, and we took it upon ourselves to terminate that service. If I can go back, I'll let council know. I regret that decision because in the future we lost annexation, we lost a lot of rights, and this is something that the city is growing. We're fighting for funding in the MPO. We're trying to find CBG grants. This is something that they can fight for. I'm not advocating for forma in any way. What I'm advocating is the city needs to already start looking for lobbying. Whether you choose forma or not, doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is that we do need them. We do need somebody to represent us because we're growing and there's a lot of funding out there that we can also get, and it'll make it easier for us to contact representatives in our favor to start changing these laws that took effect and that took our power away. That's all.
Ms. Rodarte?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I did want to add that if Forma also has an option of mentoring our elected officials to be the ones that go through the legislation and represent us. They're there to be able to guide us and let us know exactly what we need to advocate for. It doesn't mean that they directly can go over there. I know that when we had a conversation a couple of years ago, it was presented that that was an option for our council, because sometimes we want to be us out there representing our city, and they would be able to guide us. I know that's one of the options if you all choose.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Mayor, I'm sorry, we have another speaker, Elia Garcia.
Go ahead.
I'll just save my comments since the vote already passed. Thank you.
But also, if we can just from staff, if you can speak up a little bit louder, for some reason you go in and out, and so it's hard to hear.
We apologize, Mr. Perez. We'll do a better job.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 18, discussion and action on COVID-19 vaccination and public health response.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As you know, the vaccinations are here, and we are working really hard to make sure that we bring them to our community. As we stand right now, the vaccinations are going to be offered, but our residents would have to leave our city to get vaccinated. What we're trying to do is to be able to provide a location, so we can administer them here in the city of Socorro. Mr. Reta has worked really hard with the OEM, and he has a presentation for you all. Well, not a presentation, but he has some key points that are important for us to move forward with this.
Thank you, Ms. Rodarte. Can everyone hear me?
No, speak up.
Can council hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Victor Reta. I am the Community Center Director for the City of Socorro, as well as acting as one of the COVID coordinators for the City of Socorro. In discussing the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we are currently searching for guidance from our City Council to go ahead and best decide how to address the future preparation of the COVID-19 pandemic and our city's public health response. In this agenda item, we're hoping to get 3 issues, not necessarily resolved, but go ahead and get the ball rolling on how to best plan. The first one, as Ms. Rodarte stated, was vaccination. We went ahead and discussed preparations with the Department of Public Health. As she mentioned, there is no current plan to go ahead and have a vaccination clinic here within the city of Socorro. The closest clinic that was mentioned would be North Loop and Candelaria Street. So that was something that was a concern for us. In talking about preparation for a public vaccination clinic, there are some issues or necessities that need to be taken into account. Number one would also be the medical staff that goes into administering the vaccination, the housing of the actual vaccine itself, and then the location and planning for the future expansion of the pandemic. The city of Socorro, as we mentioned, did speak with the Department of Public Health. Currently, the stipulations state that anyone who is 16 years of age with underlying health condition or older, or anyone that's 65 years of age or older, can go ahead and receive the vaccine. The city of El Paso is getting limited number of shipments. The way that it is currently occurring is any provider that is registered to give the COVID-19 vaccine must request the vaccine from the state. And just because they do request, say, for example, 100 doses, does not mean the state will give you 100 doses, as they're going ahead and actually spreading that out amongst the entire United States. Shipments are coming in periodically, and they are communicating with the providers to let them know not only number one, what type of vaccine you're getting, because there are different requirements for the storage as well as dosage, but number two, the quantity. So in discussing preparation for the best outcome for the city of Socorro, we did want to go ahead and speak to council about exploring the opportunity to partner with our neighbors, the Isleta del Sur de Pueblo Tiguez. They do have their own medical staff in-house. They have a medical director who's actually working with the tribe. I did reach out to the emergency management coordinator unofficially just to see if there was anything in the sovereign nation laws that would prevent them from partnering with us. I know we've partnered in the past with our animal control, for example, but I wasn't sure if that was maybe a stipulation that would prevent them from assisting us. They said they were open to lines of communication, however, would politely request that it come from our city council, which is one of the reasons why we were brought here today. The second one would also, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Go ahead and I'll ask it when you finish.
The second one would also be location. One of the things that we witnessed in the city of El Paso's zoo vaccination was a traffic jam. One of the things that wasn't accounted for was you have to wait 15 minutes for observation. So anyone who does get the vaccine does need to be monitored for 15 minutes, and that does create a gridlock within the automobiles. So anybody that was waiting to get into the zoo, for example, was having to wait and causing delay. Here in the city of Socorro, there is limited access to our major arterials. And so one of the thoughts that we are proposing is to go ahead and do a temporary vaccination clinic site at the Charapodaca Community Center. It would be appointment based, so that way we wouldn't cause a traffic jam. And we would go ahead and discuss partnering with the Tiguas to go ahead and actually provide the medical staff that would be needed. There is CARES funding to go ahead and provide for public health amenities, which brings us to our last component of what we're asking for on this agenda item, which is the possibility to go ahead and utilize CARES funding to build and actually maintain capacity for a public health building. In the city of Socorro, there is no dedicated public health building, either by the city of Socorro or by our county health department. In speaking to the health director, she did say that she does support our goals or our long-term planning to create a building of this magnitude, which would maybe service at a satellite office, which would help us not only now but in the future of the city of Socorro. We've had a very successful working relationship with the Office of Emergency Management, as well as various medical entities and medical providers. We are going to continue working with not only them, but also with legal in regards to the CARES funding. That is something that we've been very cautious of in working very stringently with not only our finance director, but also our grants administrator. We're very much doing a team approach to go ahead and make sure that our public is served with the utmost care and respect, and that we are good stewards of this financial assistance that we're getting. At this time, I'll go ahead and pause to see if anyone has any questions. I know I threw a lot of information at you at once. I apologize.
Mr. Perez?
Um, Thank you for the, and I apologize, my dog wants to get into the conversation. Um, Very quickly, you answered the question as far as using CARES funding potentially for this. So that's one, but also, what is it, Pfizer and Moderna, right? That are the vaccines. And so I think the Pfizer one requires that there be a lot of, like heavy duty refrigeration.
So if I
And
may, in speaking to the Tiguas, the Pfizer one is very temperamental. There, it needs to
Mhm.
be stored at a very cold temperature, whereas and it's actually able to be administered quicker than the Moderna one. The Moderna one is less temperamental, and it's easier for a lot more agencies to store and provide the actual vaccination. They do have the equipment at the Tiguas complex to go ahead and store the Pfizer vaccine as well as the Moderna one. Again, this was very early in exploration. They are open to the discussion to see what can be done. We are asking for CARES funding as is a direct component of public health. There is no cost for the actual vaccine. The state is not charging anyone. What is a point of the funding would go towards maybe the salaries for the healthcare professionals, or in this case, what we're asking for is setting up an actual building to go ahead and be dedicated to public health.
thank you, because again, and just a follow-up question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
The reason why I'm asking is because I don't know if if we were to request the vaccines, which one we would get. We could either, I would think that we could get either one of them, depending on the supply chain. And so that's why I just want to make sure that we have the capability to store, in this case, the Pfizer, if that's the one that we end up getting, you know. And so, yeah, I think it's a great idea. And then one more thing, it has consideration been given to maybe helping San Elizario as well, because they're also, they're our sister city here, and they're not at a point where we're at in terms of the development for the city.
Correct. And looking at our area, we did notice that in San Elizario specifically, they do have a very large clinic from Centro San Vicente, whereas here locally in the city of Socorro, our options are nowhere near that magnitude for actual healthcare providers. We're in very much of a huge need for the healthcare population and the healthcare field here within our city. So we're at a great pivotal point. We've been talking about momentum and about exponential growth for the future. And because, as you mentioned, supply chain management, there is not a lot of the vaccine being produced. So if we were to act now in terms of long range planning appropriately with how best to provide the COVID funding, by the time they're rolling out, which is their next phase, we may be in a better position to go ahead and have a mass vaccination at the Rio Vista site, which is a larger site, which can go ahead and accommodate more people and create less wait time, which is ultimately our goal, to go ahead and do a turnaround faster service for a mass inoculation.
So then what are you all requesting?
Number one would be the ability to allow our council to go ahead and extend communications with the Tiguas to go ahead and formally create request collaboration, and then explore what they can do or what they would be open to doing. I know they did mention that they have the equipment right now to house the vaccine. The way that it does work is the medical director would be the only person able to request the vaccine. So we would need their medical personnel to do that. We'd be asking our council to politely request that the lines of communication be open further to discussion, and then nothing would be set in stone, meaning we decide firmly today this is our plan. More so, we're asking to go ahead and allow us to explore the option and come back to council with a plan for discussion and action.
Ms. Rodarte?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I also would like, things are moving very rapidly. And sometimes us waiting for another meeting holds us to like on a second base until we make a decision. So I would like some parameters that we're able to act if it's, if it has time constraints. We would always keep you in the loop. I can send out an email, keeping you all informed of what's going on. But we do need some type of um, decision power because sometimes, we're like, okay, well, that sounds great, but we need to place it in council. And sometimes other agencies, and we lose our turn just because things are moving very, very rapidly.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, Ms. Rureta?
I did also want to mention that for whatever reason, say the Tiguas would not be able to partner, we do actually have a really great working relationship with Texas Tech. We do an annual rotation of public health of their students and their nurses. As it stands now, the public health department requires a minimum of a patient care technician. That's the very lowest certification that a medical professional would need in order to administer the vaccine. So for whatever reason, if we weren't able to partner with the Tiguas, we would also look at maybe Texas Tech, Centro San Vicente, UMC, or other private partnerships in the area to go ahead and see if we could collaborate as well.
Ms. Villalobos?
In hearing everything that you have to say, Mr. Rieta, it sounds like, number one, we need to move forward fast. And it sounds like everything that we're proposing is gonna take some time, except with the TIWAs or maybe partnering up privately. Have we thought about mobile units? Is that something that you guys have discussed?
Yes, ma'am. So that is one of the things that our Department of Public Health reached out to us and said they would be open to it if we were to go ahead and coordinate with them. We would need to look out and recruit for those nurses, like I mentioned, registered nurses, licensed vocational nurses, as well as patient care technicians. Those are all licensed in the state of Texas to administer the vaccine. And then we would propose doing it at Chayapodaca as a temporary site through appointment. And then if possible, through long-term planning, having it at Rio Vista. Based on how the supply chain management is going, I do agree with you. There is a little bit of haste. If we act now, we're able in a better position to make better decisions, rather than in a haste. We're able to plan a lot more effectively rather than retroactively, and we're able to maximize the capability of the city of Socorro to have a better handle on the actual administration of the vaccine once it's open to everyone without any restrictions.
Ms. Rodarte?
The county has also stated that they are working on mobile units. What we need is just permission to really go very aggressively once we get the yes to make sure that we get the vaccines as soon as possible.
Mr. Reyes?
I was just gonna ask, what's the fastest option to start getting the vaccines?
So in order for us to get the vaccine, we would need to have a medical director request them. As soon as we were to get that, we'd go ahead and start the correspondence with the state, and then they would go ahead and give you a turnaround time once it's been approved. If, for example, the Tiguas were to be the ones that were selected and agreed to a partnership with us, once it was finalized, they would go ahead and let them know what the turnaround time is. There has been a lot of faster, shorter bursts of vaccination just because supply is so low. However, it's been varying from deployment to deployment of the actual vaccine. For example, the city of El Paso did receive an additional 1,500 vaccinations. However, those were gone within a matter of days.
Madam Mayor, question.
Mr. Perez?
So, please refresh my memory. Did I make a motion to approve this?
We don't have a motion, Mr. Perez.
Is there a motion or no motion?
No motion.
Okay, so if I can go ahead and make a motion to allow staff to pursue the necessary communications, the necessary logistics with the Tiwa the Tiwa Native American Nation, if not, and then another entities as appropriate, so that we can go ahead and get this ball rolling. and also to pursue funding through the CARES Act, and of course, bring back whatever um, agreements or things that need to be signed or approved by council.
Second.
Do we have a
We,
speaker?
we have a speaker, Alejandro Garcia.
Mr. Garcia left the meeting.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez, do we have anything for items 19 and 20?
Not for 19 and 20, Mayor, but there is one thing for executive session. You don't have to do it tonight if you prefer to postpone it. It's not short, I don't think.
We're already here. Is it gonna be something long?
Potentially.
Council?
Do we have a motion for 19 and 20?
Motion to delete items 19 and 20?
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Now,
I guess we, Madam Mayor, right, we can entertain a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to talk about item number 21.
Second.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
If I can just have a second to put everybody in the waiting room that needs to be.
And it's 9:07.
Go ahead, Mayor.
It is now 9:21. This meeting is called to order. We are now in regular session. Item number 21, Ralph Duran v. Socorro, Texas, and International Eagle Enterprises, Inc., DBA Eagle Construction and/or Eagle Transportation in the 120th District Court of El Paso County, Texas, case number 2020-DCV 3246 551.071.
Madam Mayor, if I may make a motion at this time to grant Mr. Martinez the necessary authority he requested.
Second.
Mayor, we do have several speakers.
We have two speakers, Mayor, Alejandro Garcia
Mr. Garcia has left the meeting.
and Rene Rodriguez.
I got nothing to say. I'm just tired of that.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rodriguez.
Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I was okay. I just think it's time to get over this. I mean, you know, it's been long and painful. I think we should just get over this. And you know, the city is covered. I don't know why we should just start, you know, with dialogue. I think we should just move. And that's it. Just like I've always said, let's stop settling. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
I'd like to just set the record straight. Mr. Martinez, how many times have I brought suit against the city of Socorro? It's one and once only. I'm tired of hearing these people lying of the multiple times that I've sued the city, which is all BS. I gave the city an easement at no cost to the city, and my property was trashed. I just want, you know, nobody's ever asked me, hey, why? They just say, one person even said I was suing the city of El Paso. How ridiculous. And I have tried for many, many years to get this resolved, but nobody wanted to even hear about it. So I had to hire an attorney and bring a lawsuit. And this is the only lawsuit I have ever brought against the city. And Mr. Martinez, would you please clarify that fact?
Yes, sir. So far as I know, during my tenure with the city, I only know of one lawsuit you brought against the city.
Thank you.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
I abstain.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It is now 9:25.
Ruben Reyes,
Yes.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
And we adjourn at 9:25.
It is now 9:25, meeting adjourns.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Be
Great
safe.
job, Mayor. You